On our 5th wedding anniversary, I came out of hiding behind Holden's back to make my comeback. I wanted to surprise him. But on the massive billboard at Lincoln Center, my spot had been given to Serena Miles, the woman who destroyed my voice with corrosive chemicals 3 years ago. Through the half-open dressing room door, I heard her saccharine voice. "Darling, you gave me your wife's most precious stage. What if she makes a scene?" Then came Holden's low, familiar voice. "She will never know. She is a broken husband now who can't even hit the high notes. Where else would she go except stay home and wait for me?" I stood outside the door, trembling all over. So this psychiatric facility was a lie. He had been keeping my lifelong enemy as his mistress for 3 years. All my desperate rehabilitation, and all I got was, only by breaking her wings will she stay obediently by my side. Lily's POV. On our 5th wedding anniversary, I went to Lincoln Center without telling Holden. 3 years ago, my vocal cords were severely burned by a corrosive chemical. I could never sing soprano again. After more than 1,000 days and nights of agonizing rehabilitation, from being completely unable to make a sound to finally speaking full sentences, the top medical team in England finally told me my voice had recovered. I could sing again. I wanted to reclaim my principal position at tonight's 5th anniversary special performance and surprise Holden. But when I walked up to the theater entrance full of anticipation, I froze in place. On the massive electronic billboard outside, the spot that should have been mine now showed a face both familiar and nauseating. Serena Miles. My breath caught instantly. I felt like I'd plunged into ice water. How could Serena be here? How dare she show her face here? 3 years ago, Serena had been jealous of my status in the opera world. She put a corrosive agent in my throat spray and personally destroyed my voice, broke my wings. The day we learned the truth, Holden's eyes were bloodshot. He grabbed Serena by the throat and said he'd make her wish she were dead. To avenge me, Holden said he'd sent Serena to the most remote underground psychiatric facility in New York, where she'd endure inhuman torture every day. He said anyone who dared harm his woman would pay a price worse than death. For 3 years, whenever I had nightmares, Holden would hold me gently, kiss the scar on my neck, and repeat, "Don't be afraid. The person who hurt you is atoning in hell." But now, the woman who was supposed to be atoning in hell was wearing a gorgeous haute couture gown, appearing on a billboard at New York's most prestigious theater. What the hell was going on? I trembled all over as I rushed into the theater in my heels. Using my familiarity with the place, I avoided the staff and walked straight to the principal's dressing room backstage. The door was ajar. Muffled voices came from inside. "Holden, is this dress too tight? I'm afraid I won't be able to hit the high notes tonight." It was Serena's saccharine voice. My footsteps stopped abruptly. My nails dug into my palms. Holden? In all of New York, who else would dare call the cold, ruthless heir to the Chase fortune by his first name so intimately? No one but me. Then came Holden's low, familiar voice, the voice that used to be gentle only for me. "Tight looks good. If you can't hit the high notes, it's fine. The sound engineer will adjust it for you. Tonight you just need to stand on stage looking beautiful and enjoy everyone's applause." But Serena sounded uncertain. "Tonight is your 5th anniversary with Lily. You gave me the stage she cares about most. What if she finds out and makes a scene? She won't know." Holden's tone was certain and cold. "She's a broken husband who can't even hit the high notes anymore. Where else would she go except stay home and wait for me?" My mind went completely blank. So this was how he saw me. I'd fought desperately through rehabilitation, breaking into cold sweats from pain every day just to be worthy of him again. And all I was to him was a husband. "Darling, you're so good to me." Serena giggled, her voice dripping with smugness. 3 years ago, I destroyed her voice, and not only didn't you send me to a psychiatric facility, you hid me in a villa in LA to live in luxury. Now you're letting me take her place for a comeback. Have you grown tired of her? The dressing room went quiet for a few seconds. I pressed my hand over my mouth, tears streaming down my face. My heart felt like it was being sawed back and forth with a dull knife. The pain nearly knocked me off my feet. So the psychiatric facility, the suffering worse than death, it was all lies. He had kept the enemy who destroyed my life as his mistress for 3 years. Don't talk nonsense. Holden's voice was emotionless. "I love her, but she used to be too dazzling, flying all over the world, never coming home. Only by breaking her wings would she stay obediently by my side and be a Mrs. Chase who depends entirely on me. As for you, you helped me keep her. This is your reward." I staggered back a step. My heel accidentally knocked against a prop box, making a dull thud. "Who's out there?" Holden's sharp voice instantly pierced through the door. I didn't run. I stood there rigidly, watching the dressing room door get yanked open. Holden wore a perfectly tailored black suit, his posture straight, his eyes still carrying their usual coldness. But when he saw it was me outside the door, panic flashed in his eyes, though he quickly masked it perfectly. "Lily, what are you doing here? You didn't hear anything just now, did you?" He strode toward me, instinctively reaching to pull me close, his tone gentle but unable to hide his tension. I stepped back, dodging his hand. I looked at this man I had loved for 5 years, at his seemingly devoted face, and felt nothing but disgust. Lily's POV. I laughed coldly and asked instead of answering, "What do you hope I heard?" Holden's hand froze in midair. His brow furrowed. "This isn't a place you should be. We'll talk at home." I ignored him and looked past his shoulder into the dressing room. Serena wore a midnight blue velvet gown that had originally belonged to me, a custom piece from a top British designer made for my comeback performance. Now, it was on the body of the woman who destroyed my voice. Serena looked at me, her eyes full of provocation. Her smugness stung me. Fighting back the ache, I demanded, "Holden, why is she wearing my dress? Don't you think you owe me an explanation?" Holden saw my reddened eyes and sighed, stepping forward to forcibly take my hand. "Lily, you're misunderstanding. I put her on that stage to humiliate her." I laughed bitterly. "Humiliate? Yes." Holden's expression didn't change, his eyes terrifyingly sincere. "She destroyed your dream years ago, so I'm going to make her humiliate herself in front of everyone. She doesn't have your talent. Tonight during the performance, I'll have the sound engineer cut her microphone and let her lose face in front of all of New York's elite. That's worse than locking her in a psychiatric facility. It'll make her wish she were dead." He said it so matter-of-factly, so devotedly. If I hadn't just heard him promise the sound engineer would help adjust her audio, I might have actually believed this bullshit. "Really?" I pulled my hand away and looked at him coldly. "Fine. Then I'll watch from the audience and see how you make her wish she were dead." With that, I turned and walked away, spine straight. At 8 p.m., the performance officially began. I sat in the most secluded box on the second floor, watching the glittering stage lights. Serena made her entrance. She wore that midnight blue gown and a diamond necklace worth a fortune, looking like a noble queen. The music started. Serena began to sing. The microphone wasn't cut. Not only that, but the sound engineer used top-tier equipment to embellish her mediocre voice, making it sound ethereal and graceful. The entire hall erupted in applause. My gaze cut through the crowd, fixed on the man in the center of the front row VIP section. Holden sat there, posture lazy and refined. He watched Serena on stage, the corners of his mouth curving in appreciation. When the song ended, Serena took an elegant bow. Holden stood up and, under everyone's envious gazes, personally walked onto the stage and handed Serena a bouquet of vibrant blue roses. Blue roses. Those were my signature. Holden had once reserved an entire flower field just to cultivate the purest blue roses. He'd said, "Lily, only this one-of-a-kind blue is worthy of you." But now, he'd personally given that uniqueness to Serena. Serena accepted the flowers and lowered her head shyly. The two smiled at each other on stage like a loving couple. I sat in the dark box watching the scene, suddenly finding it a bit funny. I laughed out loud. As I laughed, tears fell in large drops onto the back of my hand. I used to think Holden was my only salvation when I fell into the abyss. After my voice was destroyed, I developed severe depression and attempted suicide several times. Each time, it was Holden who held me all night, eyes red, begging me to live. He'd said, "Lily, you still have me. Even if you can never sing again, you're still my life." Turns out, he never wanted a brilliant opera singer. He wanted a broken thing that could only cling to him, unable to leave him. He personally built a cage called love, locked me inside, then turned around and gave the stage and glory I craved most to another woman. After the performance, I didn't wait for Holden. I took a cab back to the villa alone. In the empty living room, I didn't turn on the lights. I sat on the sofa like a soulless puppet. I don't know how much time passed before I heard the fingerprint lock at the front door. Holden walked in carrying a faint smell of alcohol. He turned on the light and saw me sitting on the sofa. He paused for a moment, then walked over and pulled me into his arms. "Lily, why didn't you turn on the lights? Were you waiting for me?" He lowered his head to kiss my cheek, but I smelled Serena's perfume on him. "Didn't you say you were going to humiliate her on stage?" I didn't dodge, just spoke woodenly. Holden's movements froze. His eyes darkened, his tone apologetic. "Lily, I'm sorry. There was a change of plans. The organizers had some issues. If I'd let her humiliate herself on the spot, it would have damaged the theater's reputation." Don't worry, I'll have plenty of ways to torture her later. Really? I turned my head and looked straight into his eyes. And the blue roses? Were those to torture her too? Lily's POV. Holden's eyes turned cold. His face showed impatience, but he still placated me. I was just respecting the organizers and helping them complete tonight's performance. No matter who was on that stage, I would have done the same thing. Lily, stop being upset with me. Today is our 5th anniversary. Let's not waste it. As Holden spoke, his hands began wandering restlessly over my body, his breath hot against my neck, his tone suggestive. My heart grew colder. Holden, you disgust me. You put the woman who destroyed my voice on that stage, gave her my flowers, and now you think a few words can brush it all aside. Holden's movements stopped abruptly. His tone turned cold. Lily, since when did you become so petty?
Fine.
You want the truth? I'll tell you. Serena has depression. Her doctor said she needs the stage to build her confidence, or she'll die. Lily, you've always been kind. Are you really going to watch someone die? I froze. I looked at the man in front of me as if I were looking at a complete stranger, a monster. She has depression? My voice shook badly. Holden, when my voice was destroyed and I couldn't sleep for 3 years, when I was losing handfuls of hair, when I was slitting my wrists, why didn't you say I might die? Now you're accusing me of not being kind enough for the sake of a criminal? Holden took a deep breath, suppressing his anger, trying to take my hand. Lily, don't be so angry. I just don't want you living in hatred forever. Aren't you fine now? You have me with you. We have a whole lifetime together. I yanked my hand back forcefully, finding the hand that had touched Serena unbearably filthy. I'm tired. I want to rest. I stood up and walked upstairs without looking back. The next morning when I came downstairs, Holden had already left for the office. A maid was putting away the suit he'd changed out of. I walked over. My eyes fell on the jacket pocket, where a corner of white card stock peeked out. I don't even know why, but I reached out and pulled out the card. It was an access card. It had the 157 logo on it. That was New York's most exclusive luxury high-rise, with only 1 unit per floor. Non-residents couldn't get in at all. Holden owned many properties, but he never stayed in them. I gripped the card tightly, my knuckles turning white. That afternoon, I put on sunglasses and a mask and took a cab to 157. I swiped the card at the main entrance and took the private elevator straight to the top floor. When the elevator doors opened, I saw a solid white oak door. I took a deep breath and used the access card to unlock it. The lock beeped softly. I pushed the door open. When I saw what was inside, I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. The decoration style, the furniture layout, even the custom shoe cabinet by the entrance, everything was identical to the home Holden and I shared. The only difference was that these walls were covered with photos of Serena. Serena on stage. Serena on vacation at the beach. And photos of Serena with Holden. In the photos, Holden wore casual clothes, looking down at Serena with an expression of relaxation and affection I'd never seen. I couldn't breathe. It felt like an invisible hand was choking my throat. I walked step by step into the living room. On the table sat 2 overlapping wine glasses. On the sofa lay a carelessly tossed men's shirt. It was the shirt Holden had worn last night. So when he said the company had an emergency and left in the middle of the night, he'd come here. I felt ice cold all over as I walked into the bedroom. The bedroom layout nearly broke me completely. The sheets were champagne-colored silk, my favorite. The vanity was covered with expensive skincare products. And the walk-in closet was hung with row after row of haute couture. Half of them were pieces I'd admired, but been told by the brands had already been purchased by a mysterious buyer. Turns out that mysterious buyer was my husband, and these clothes were worn by the woman who destroyed me.
Click.
The sound of a lock opening suddenly came from outside. I snapped back to attention, my heart pounding. I quickly looked around and hid in the spacious walk-in closet, peering out through the slats of the louver door. Footsteps grew closer. Holden, why did you come over so early today? Serena's sweet voice rang out. I missed you. Holden's voice was low and husky, carrying obvious warmth. The two walked into the bedroom embracing, falling onto that champagne silk bed. I pressed my hand hard over my mouth, tears flowing uncontrollably, my body shaking violently beyond my control. I watched my husband of 5 years, in this house that was a complete replica of our marital home, making love to another woman with total abandon. Overwhelming nausea crashed over me. Their every gasp and moan was like a sharp awl drilling viciously into my skull. Lily's POV. I don't know how much time passed before the commotion outside finally quieted. Holden. Serena's voice carried satisfied laziness. You ran out in the middle of the night to be with me. Didn't Lily make a scene? What would she make a scene about? Holden lit a cigarette. The lighter made a crisp click. She can't live without me now. As long as I sweet-talk her a little, she'll obediently do what I say. Aren't you afraid she'll discover the truth? Serena laughed lightly, her tone full of undisguised malice. What if she finds out that I deliberately put that stuff in her water years ago, and you not only knew all along but helped me destroy the security footage and even used it as an excuse to keep her caged? Do you think she'd go insane? In the closet, my eyes flew wide open. Even my breathing stopped completely in that moment. What did I just hear? Holden knew all along? He helped Serena destroy the surveillance footage. Shut up. Holden's voice instantly turned cold, carrying a warning. Take that to your grave. If she ever finds out, I won't forgive you. Oh, I'm just talking. Seeing him angry, Serena quickly pressed herself against him coquettishly. I just think you're too cruel to her. You knew how much she loved that stage, but you personally broke her wings. Cruel. Holden laughed coldly and exhaled a smoke ring. She was too proud. If I didn't pull her down from her pedestal, she'd never stay obediently by my side. I gave her the identity of Mrs. Chase and more money than she could spend in a lifetime. What more could she want? Right, you love her most. Serena's tone carried a hint of jealousy.
What about me?
I did such a huge thing for you. Are you planning to keep me hidden here forever? What's the rush? Holden stubbed out his cigarette. When the time is right, I'll arrange for you to enter the most famous opera house. The fame and fortune you want, I'll give it all to you. Thank you, darling. Serena cheered and kissed him again. I leaned against the cold wall, gasping for breath.
My tears had run dry.
All that remained was desolation and death in my heart. So that's how it was. It had all been an elaborate, carefully planned deception. What I thought was an accident was Serena's deliberate sabotage. What I thought was salvation was a cage Holden built with his own hands. The love I treasured was, in Holden's eyes, nothing more than a game to satisfy his twisted need for control. He enjoyed my dependence and pain while having his fun with the real culprit. How terrifying. This man I'd shared a bed with for 5 years was a complete monster. I escaped from that penthouse while they went to shower together. I wandered the bustling streets of New York like a corpse. The early autumn wind cut into my skin, bone-chillingly cold. I didn't go back to the villa. Instead, I went to an inconspicuous cafe and used a public phone to dial an international number. Hello, Dr. Bennett? This is Lily Hart. A delighted voice came through from the renowned British vocal specialist. Miss Hart, your voice has recovered beautifully. As long as you continue with the final medication regimen, you can absolutely return to your peak. Have you decided about auditioning for the Royal Opera House? I've decided. My voice carried the calm that comes after complete despair. Please arrange an audition for next month. Also, I'm running low on my medication. Could you send me another treatment cycle? No problem. Looking forward to seeing you in England. I hung up and watched people come and go outside the window, my eyes gradually turning cold. I wouldn't make a scene. I wouldn't confront Holden. Reasoning with a monster would only get me killed more miserably. I had to escape. I had to completely leave this nauseating cage and take back everything that belonged to me. At 10 p.m., I returned to the villa. Holden wasn't home yet. I took a shower, changed into clean pajamas, and sat at my vanity, slowly covering my pale face with makeup. At 11:30, I heard a car engine downstairs. Soon after, the bedroom door opened. Holden walked in holding an exquisite velvet gift box. He saw me sitting on the bed. His eyes softened. He walked over and pulled me into his arms. Lily, still awake? I suppressed my nausea and didn't push him away, just hummed softly. Still angry about last night? Holden opened the gift box. Inside was a pink diamond necklace worth a fortune. I specially had someone buy this from England. It's my 5th anniversary gift to you. Do you like it? I looked at that dazzling necklace, but what flashed through my mind was the equally expensive diamond around Serena's neck. Thank you. It's beautiful. I forced out a stiff smile. Holden personally fastened the necklace around my neck, his fingertips deliberately, or not grazing the shallow scar where my vocal cords were. Lily, I'm taking vacation next week. How about I take you to England to relax? You've always wanted to see the scenery there, haven't you? I lowered my eyes, hiding the coldness in them. Sure, I said softly. Going to England.
Perfect.
Lily's POV. Over the next few days, I was unusually obedient. I stopped mentioning the theater. I stopped asking why Holden came home late. I took the medication Dr. Bennett sent on schedule every day. When Holden wasn't home, I'd lock myself in the soundproof practice room, slowly recovering my vocal techniques. Holden was very satisfied with my transformation. He thought I'd finally accepted reality and fully embraced my fate of being kept. To reward my compliance, Holden canceled many business commitments and came home early every day to have dinner with me. He even cooked my favorite dishes himself. Watching him bustle around in the kitchen, I only felt irony. If I hadn't heard those words with my own ears, I really would have been fooled by his performance as a devoted husband for the rest of my life. 2 days until the England trip. I'd secretly packed my important documents and Dr. Bennett's letter of recommendation, hiding them in the lining of an inconspicuous old suitcase. Once I got on that plane to England, I'd find a way to break free. However, the night before departure, Holden took a phone call, and his expression changed slightly. He walked onto the balcony and said a few things in a low voice, then returned to the bedroom and looked at me apologetically. "Lily, I'm sorry." He came over and took my hand. "One of the company's major overseas projects suddenly hit a snag. I have to fly to LA tomorrow to handle it personally. The England trip might have to be postponed a few days." I looked into his deep eyes and laughed coldly inside. LA? Just this afternoon, I'd seen a post on Serena's unblocked private social media account, looking forward to tomorrow's birthday party. Having the person I love most by my side is the greatest happiness. Tomorrow was Serena's birthday. Holden wasn't going to LA on business at all. He was going to celebrate his precious mistress's birthday. Is it serious? I withdrew my hand and asked with feigned concern. Yeah, a bit tricky. Holden smoothly stroked my hair, his tone gentle but unable to hide his tension. Just stay home and wait for me. I'll come back to be with you as soon as I'm done. Okay. I lowered my eyes. Work comes first. Early the next morning, Holden left with his suitcase. I stood at the second-floor window, watching his car drive out through the villa gates, my eyes turning completely cold. That afternoon, Serena's private account started updating frantically. The photos showed an extremely luxurious private club suite. Flowers, balloons, champagne towers, and mountains of expensive gifts. One photo showed Serena wearing a birthday crown, hands clasped in a wish. At the edge of the photo, a man's hand accidentally appeared. That hand wore a limited edition Patek Philippe watch. It was the birthday gift I'd given Holden last year. I stared at that photo for a long time, then suddenly picked up my phone and called Holden. The phone rang for a while before being answered. The background noise was somewhat chaotic. I could faintly hear music. "Lily, what's wrong?" Holden's voice sounded tense. "Where are you?" I asked. "In LA, about to start a meeting." Holden lied, without even pausing. "It's a bit noisy here. Can I call you back later?" Okay. I hung up directly. I changed into a simple black trench coat, put on sunglasses, and took a cab to the high-end private club from the photo background, Eclipse. The club operated on a strict membership system, but I used to be a top-tier VIP here. I used facial recognition to get through the main entrance and walked straight to the luxury suite on the top floor where Serena was. The suite door wasn't fully closed. Laughter and chatter came from inside. "Serena, Holden is so good to you." "This is such an elaborate setup," a woman's voice said flatteringly. "Of course." Serena's tone was smug. "He said that woman is useless now. He's going to divorce her sooner or later. When the time comes, I'll be the real Mrs. Chase." I stood outside the door listening to these grating words, then pushed the door open.
Bang.
The suite instantly went silent. Everyone's eyes focused on me in the doorway. Holden sat in the center of the sofa, holding a glass of red wine. The moment he saw me, his wine glass shook violently, red liquid spilling onto his expensive suit pants. "Lily." He shot to his feet, his face instantly darkening. "What are you doing here?" I ignored him and walked straight up to Serena. Seeing me, Serena showed no panic. Instead, emboldened by Holden's presence, she thrust out her chest deliberately. "Lily, what are you doing here? You're not welcome." I looked at her meticulously made-up face and suddenly raised my hand. Smack! A resounding slap landed hard across Serena's face. Lily's POV. I put all my strength into that slap. Serena's head snapped to the side. 5 clear red finger marks instantly appeared on her pale face. She covered her cheek, eyes wide with disbelief, then tears immediately welled up and spilled over. "Holden." She turned to look at Holden, her voice trembling with grievance. The suite fell deathly silent. Holden's expression was dark enough to freeze over. He strode forward, yanked Serena behind him, and stared at me with piercing eyes. "Lily, have you lost your mind?" I watched him protect Serena and felt the last warmth in my heart go completely cold. "I've lost my mind?" I laughed coldly, pointing at Serena. "Holden, didn't you say you were in LA for a meeting? Your meeting is at this woman's birthday party. This is my private business. It's not your place to interfere." Apologize to Serena right now. Apologize. I sounded like I'd heard the world's biggest joke. She destroyed my voice, stole my stage, and now wants to take my place. You want me to apologize to her? Lily, Holden suddenly raised his voice, his eyes terrifyingly cold. I'll say this one last time. Apologize. Otherwise, you'll never see Dr. Bennett again for the rest of your life. My whole body shook. I looked at him in disbelief. Dr. Bennett was my only hope for rehabilitation. Holden was actually using this to threaten me? You've been investigating me? My voice trembled slightly. You think you could contact a doctor privately without me knowing? Holden looked down at me from above, his eyes full of cruel possessiveness. Lily, I gave you a chance. You chose not to be obedient. Since you want so badly to fix your voice and leave me, I'll personally cut off all your hope. I felt like I'd fallen into hell. I finally understood that I had no secrets from this man. He was like an airtight net, trapping me inside, watching me struggle, watching me despair. I saw Serena hiding behind Holden, a smug, cold smile at the corner of her mouth. She suddenly stepped forward and reached out to grab my sleeve. Miss Hart, don't be angry. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have let Holden come celebrate my birthday. You can hit me or yell at me. Just please don't fight with Holden. As she spoke, she deliberately stepped backward. The instant her hand touched my sleeve, Serena suddenly screamed and fell straight backward. Ah! Serena hit the floor hard. Her forehead struck the edge of the table, instantly drawing blood. Serena? Holden's expression changed drastically. He immediately crouched down and pulled her into his arms. Holden, it hurts. Serena leaned weakly against him, looking at me with tearful eyes. Lily, I just wanted to apologize. Why did you push me? I stood there, coldly watching Serena's poor acting. I didn't push you. Enough. Holden suddenly looked up. Lily, you've disappointed me so much. I always thought you were just willful. I never imagined you'd become so vicious. Vicious? I looked at this husband who was accusing me for the sake of his mistress and suddenly felt utterly exhausted. Think whatever you want. I turned around, ready to leave this suffocating place. Stop. Holden's cold voice rang out behind me. Escort Mrs. Chase back to the villa. Without my permission, she's not allowed to step 1 foot outside. The bodyguards outside immediately rushed in, blocking my path on both sides. I didn't struggle. I knew that in New York, as long as Holden didn't want me to leave, I couldn't. I looked back at Holden. For the first time, my eyes held no emotion, just desolate, deathly calm. When Holden met my gaze, he said nothing. He just picked up the injured Serena and strode out of the suite. The silence of the Chase estate was not peaceful. It was heavy, medicinal, and absolute. For 3 weeks, the iron gates of the villa remained locked. The security staff had been doubled, their dark suits forming a human perimeter around the manicured lawns. Inside, the maids went about their duties with downcast eyes, speaking only in hushed whispers. To the outside world, Mrs. Chase was resting, recovering from a sudden relapse of her chronic throat ailment. To Lily it was a high-end prison. Holden did not return to the villa for the first 4 days. When he finally did, the smell of expensive whiskey and Serena's distinctive, cloying perfume clung to his skin. He entered the bedroom without knocking. Lily was sitting by the French doors, staring out at the rain-slicked terrace. She didn't turn around when the door clicked open, nor did she flinch when his heavy hands settled onto her shoulders, his thumbs tracing her collarbone with a slow, possessive pressure. Are you ready to be sensible, Lily? His voice was a low, gravelly purr near her ear. I don't like treating you this way, but you left me no choice.
Coming.
To eclipse, striking Serena, that is not the behavior of the woman I married. Lily kept her face perfectly smooth. In the reflection of the glass, she saw her own eyes, cold, empty, devoid of the desperate love that had once blinded her.
I
was hurt, Holden, she said, her voice carrying a practiced rasp, simulating the vocal strain he expected. I saw the woman who ruined my life, living the dream I
lost.
How was I supposed to react? Holden sighed, a sound of patronizing disappointment, and slid his hands down her arms. I told you, I am taking care of you. Serena is a tool. Her performance at Lincoln Center was a business arrangement, nothing more. You don't need the stage, Lily. You have me. Why can't you be content with that? He reached into his breast pocket and produced a small, amber glass vial.
Dr.
Bennett's clinic sent this. It's the next phase of your vocal therapy. But I've decided we're going to pause it for a while, until I'm sure you won't try to run to London. Lily's heart did not hammer. She had anticipated this. Holden's entire holdover. Her relied on her perceived helplessness. "If that is what you think is best," she murmured, turning her head to press a dry, submissive kiss against his palm. "I just want things to go back to the way they were. Before the incident. Before the silence." Holden's eyes darkened with a mixture of triumph and lust. He loved her like this, broken, compliant, looking up at him as if he were her sole savior.
He
Leaned down and kissed her deeply, a hard, conquering gesture. Lily forced herself to endure it, tasting the faint bitterness of his betrayal, archiving the disgust deep in her mind to fuel what was to come. "Good girl," he whispered, stroking her hair. "Keep being this obedient, and maybe I'll let you have your medicine by next month." What Holden didn't know was that the real medication, the final critical 3-month regimen Dr. Bennett had prescribed, was already hidden inside the lining of her old silk-covered jewelry box, smuggled in weeks ago before her house arrest began. The vials Holden held were placebos she had intentionally left in her vanity to make him believe he held her lifeline in his hands. Every night, after Holden fell into a deep, alcohol-induced sleep beside her, Lily would slip out of bed. She would lock herself in the ensuite bathroom, run the shower to drown out any sound, and perform her grueling vocal exercises. She practiced in silence first, shaping her mouth, adjusting her breath support, feeling the delicate, reconstructed tissues of her vocal cords stretch and flex. Then, she would hum, soft, resonant tones that vibrated in her chest. Slowly, week by week, the range returned. The clarity returned. It was no longer the fragile, raw voice of a victim. It was a voice forged in fire, deeper, richer, and far more dangerous. And in her silk jewelry box, alongside the medicine, was her most lethal weapon, her backup phone. On it was the high-fidelity audio recording she had captured from the walk-in closet at 1:57, the clear, unedited confession of Serena, admitting to the poisoning and Holden admitting to destroying the evidence to keep Lily caged, to orchestrate an escape from a man who controlled the local police, the banks, and the media. Lily knew she couldn't simply slip out of a window. She had to make Holden believe he had won so completely that he would open the cage doors himself. 2 weeks later, Lily requested a meeting with Holden in his study. She wore a soft, high-necked cream dress that made her look delicate, almost ethereal. She carried a leather-bound folder. "What is this?" Holden asked, looking up from his laptop. "It's the deed to the Greenwich estate my parents left me," Lily said, her voice quiet and submissive. "And the transfer documents for my remaining shares in the Hart Opera Trust. I want you to manage them, Holden. I don't want to think about money or contracts or the past anymore. I just want to focus on being your wife." Holden looked at the documents, then at Lily. A slow, arrogant smile spread across his face. The Hart Trust had been a lingering point of contention. It was the one piece of independence Lily had retained. By surrendering it, she was effectively handing him her entire financial sovereignty. "Are you sure about this, Lily?" he asked, though he was already unscrewing his fountain pen. "I am sure," she said, lowering her eyes. "Without you, I have nothing anyway. What use do I have for a trust fund if I can't leave the house?" This was the final piece of the trap. Holden, convinced of his absolute victory, began to loosen the leash. He reduced the guards at the gate from 4 to 2. He allowed her to use the garden unsupervised. Most importantly, he permitted her to attend the annual Chase Group Charity Gala, New York's premier high society event, scheduled for the following week. "You've been so good lately," Holden told her over dinner that night.
You
"Deserve a night out. Everyone has been asking about you. It will be good for the Chase Group's image to have you on my arm again." "And Serena?" Lily asked, keeping her tone perfectly neutral, almost indifferent. "Will she be there?" Holden chuckled, reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. "Serena is performing, yes, but she knows her place now. She won't bother you. You are Mrs.
Chase.
She is just entertainment." Lily smiled. "I look forward to seeing her perform." The next day, during the 3 hours Holden was away at a board meeting, Lily made her move. She used her backup phone to contact Alastair Sterling. Sterling was the artistic director of the Royal Opera House in London and a lifelong rival of the Chase family's philanthropic wing. He had tried to sign Lily years ago, before her voice was destroyed, and had publicly accused Holden of stifling one of the greatest talents of a generation by keeping her secluded. "Lily." Alastair's voice came through the encrypted line, sharp and instantly alert. "Dr. Bennett contacted me. He said Chase tried to buy out his clinics. Research grants to shut down your treatment. Is it true? Yes, Lily whispered, her eyes darting toward the hallway. But my voice is fully restored, Alistair. I have the final regimen. I can sing the high E-flat. Again. Better than before. There was a stunned silence on the other end. My God. If this is true. I need a way out, Lily said, her voice dropping to a fierce, commanding tone. The Chase Group Gala is next Thursday at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I will
Be there.
I need a private jet, a security team that Holden's money can't buy, and an immediate audition at the Royal Opera House the moment I land in London. Can you do this? For the resurrection of Lily Hart? Alistair's voice warmed with a cold, competitive fire. I would build a bridge across the Atlantic myself. The jet will be waiting at Teterboro Airport. I'll have a diplomatic transport vehicle, parked 2 blocks from the Met. You just have to get out of the building. I will, Lily said. And Alistair? Prepare the press. When I debut in London, I want the entire international media watching. The night of the Chase Group Charity Gala arrived. The Metropolitan Museum of Art was bathed in dramatic blue and gold lights. Hundreds of photographers lined the red carpet, their flashes illuminating the steady stream of New York's elite. Lily stepped out of the limousine wearing a breathtaking, backless gown of crimson silk. It was a stark contrast to the muted pastel tones Holden usually forced her to wear. Around her neck was the pink diamond necklace Holden had given her for their anniversary, a glittering collar of submission. Holden wore a tuxedo, his arm wrapped tightly around her waist, presenting her to the cameras like a prize trophy. You look stunning, darling, he whispered as they walked up the steps.
But
remember, keep your voice low. Don't speak to the journalists. Of course, Holden, she replied, her smile radiant and utterly empty. Inside the great hall, the atmosphere was opulent. Waiters carried silver trays of champagne, and the air was thick with the scent of expensive perfume and corporate power. Near the stage, Lily spotted Serena. The mistress was dressed in a shimmering silver gown, surrounded by a group of sycophants. When Serena saw Lily, her eyes flared with a mixture of fear and instant jealousy.
she
Pointedly turned her back, but Lily could see her shoulders tensing. At 9 p.m., the performances began. Serena was scheduled to sing an aria from Lucia di Lammermoor, the very piece Lily had been famous for before her accident. As Serena walked onto the stage, Holden leaned close to Lily. Watch closely.
Lily
This is the stage you thought you wanted. But look at how much effort it
takes.
Isn't it better to just sit back and let others do the work? Lily didn't answer. She watched Serena begin to sing. The sound was technically proficient, heavily assisted by the hall's state-of-the-art acoustic design, but it lacked soul.
It was a mimicry of
Talent, a shallow imitation of what Lily had once possessed. As the crowd applauded, Lily leaned over to Holden. I need to use the restroom. The champagne has given me a slight headache. Holden looked at his watch. Don't be long. We have the VIP dinner in 20 minutes. He signaled to one of his personal bodyguards, a burly man named Marcus, to follow her. Lily walked briskly through the Temple of Dender Wing, the glass facade showing the dark silhouette of Central Park outside. Marcus followed at a respectful but inescapable distance. She entered the luxury restroom area. It had a secondary exit leading toward the museum's administrative offices and the back-of-house loading docks. Information Lily had memorized from a blueprint she had studied days prior. Inside the restroom, she met a young catering waitress she had paid off earlier in the week. Without a word, the girl handed Lily a simple black trench coat, flat shoes, and a worker's security pass. Lily slipped off the pink diamond necklace, leaving it on the marble sink, and wrapped herself in the dark coat. She slipped out of the secondary door, scanning the badge at the employee exit. Behind her, she heard the muffled sound of Marcus knocking on the restroom door. Mrs. Chase? Is everything all right? Lily didn't look back. She navigated the maze of concrete corridors, her heart beating with a steady, rhythmic adrenaline. She pushed open the final fire exit, stepping out into the cool, damp night air of East 81st Street. 2 blocks away, a sleek, black armored SUV with tinted windows was idling. As Lily approached, the back door flew open. A tall man in a dark suit gestured for her to get in. Ms. Hart, Mr. Sterling sent us. Let's go. The moment the door slammed shut, the SUV accelerated smoothly into the night. Inside the vehicle, Lily's backup phone buzzed. It was a text message from Alistair. The airspace is cleared. Welcome back. Lily looked out the window as the Manhattan skyline faded into the distance.
4.
The first time in 3 years, she took a deep, unrestricted breath. The flight to London was a blur of silence and preparation. Lily slept for 6 hours, the deep, dreamless sleep of the liberated. When she woke, the plane was descending through the gray, heavy clouds of London. She was driven straight to a private clinic in Harley Street. There, Dr. Bennett was waiting for her, his eyes warm with professional pride and immense relief. "Lily," he said, taking both her hands. "I was terrified when Chase's lawyers showed up at my practice. They threatened to destroy my reputation if I continued to treat you. But Alistair stepped in. The Sterling Foundation has fully funded my research now. We don't need Holden Chase's filthy money." "Let's test it, doctor," Lily said, her voice steady. For the next 2 hours, Dr. Bennett ran a series of advanced laryngoscopies. When the final scans appeared on the monitor, the doctor let out a long, breathless laugh. "It is a miracle," he whispered. "The scar tissue is entirely gone. The vocal cords are perfectly symmetrical, completely healed. Lily, you don't just have your voice back. You have a voice that has matured, that has gained a dramatic resonance I've rarely seen in my career. You are ready." The audition at the Royal Opera House took place that very afternoon in the empty, majestic main auditorium. Alistair Sterling sat in the center of the stalls, his arms crossed, his expression intense. "Whenever you are ready, Lily, show me what we fought for." The pianist began the opening chords of Bellini's Casta Diva, a prayer to the Chase goddess, a song of immense technical difficulty and profound emotional longing. Lily closed her eyes. She didn't think of Holden or Serena or the cage.
She
Thought of the pain of the last 3 years, the burning of the chemicals in her throat, the nights of silent weeping, the agony of every single whisper she had fought to utter. She opened her mouth. The first note was a soft, shimmering thread of gold that seemed to hang suspended in the air of the vast, empty theater. It was perfectly pure, free of any strain or vibrato. Slowly, she let the sound swell, building a crescendo that filled every corner of the 5-tier auditorium. The high notes were effortless, ringing with a brilliant, bell-like clarity that made Alistair stand up from his seat, his mouth slightly open. When the final note died away, leaving a ringing silence in the hall, Alistair didn't applaud. He simply looked at her, his eyes shining with tears. "The opera world has been in darkness for 3 years, Lily," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Welcome back to the light. When do we perform?" Lily asked, her voice calm and resolute. 2 weeks, Alistair said, a sharp, professional smile returning to his face. "We are opening Norma. The tickets are already sold out, but we will announce a sudden cast change. The world will think we are debuting a mystery soprano.
and
On opening night, we will broadcast the performance live to theaters across the globe, including Lincoln Center in New York." In New York, Holden Chase was losing his mind. Lily's disappearance had been a catastrophic blow to his pride and his carefully constructed illusion of control. He had spent millions of dollars hiring private investigators, bribing airport officials, and trying to track her bank accounts, only to find that she had systematically transferred her assets out of his reach. Before signing the Greenwich deed, the documents she had given him were clever, legally non-binding duplicates designed to delay his legal team. Even worse, the pink diamond necklace she had left on the restroom sink had been accompanied by a small, handwritten note. "A collar only works on a dog, Holden. I am a bird." Serena sat on the sofa in Holden's penthouse, her face pale, her hands trembling. As she read the entertainment news on her tablet, "Holden," she whimpered, her voice cracking. "Have you seen this? The Royal Opera House in London. They've announced a global broadcast of Norma for next
week.
They're calling it the return of the century. The soprano is listed as anonymous, but look at the silhouette on the poster." Holden snatched the tablet from her hand. The black and white silhouette was unmistakable. The elegant curve of the neck, the proud tilt of the head. "Lily," Holden hissed, his eyes bloodshot, his knuckles turning white as he
Gripped the tablet.
"She thinks she can run for me. She thinks she can sing. Without my permission. What are we going to do?" Serena cried. "If she performs, if she tells people what happened." "She won't," Holden said, his voice dangerously quiet. "We're going to London. I will buy the Royal Opera House's board of directors if I have to. I will shut down the production. Lily belongs to me. She will sing only when and where I tell her to." The night of the global broadcast arrived. The Royal Opera House was packed to its absolute capacity. In New York, the Lincoln Center Plaza was filled with thousands of people watching the giant outdoor screen, eagerly anticipating the mystery Sopranos debut. Holden and Serena sat in a private, high-security VIP box at the Royal Opera House in London, having used their immense wealth to secure tickets at the last minute. Holden looked down at the stage, his face a mask of cold fury. Beside him, Serena was shaking, clutching her designer handbag as if it could protect her from the storm she knew was coming. The house lights dimmed. The conductor raised his baton. The curtain rose on a dark, mystical druid forest. And then, Lily walked onto the stage. She wore a gown of pure white silk, her dark hair falling in waves over her shoulders. She looked like a goddess of ancient myth, powerful, untouched, and utterly magnificent. A collective gasp echoed through the theater and across the screens in New York. "It's Lily Hart," someone in the stalls whispered. "She can sing again." In the VIP box, Holden stood up, his hand gripping the velvet railing. "No," he muttered. How is this possible?" Before he could take a step toward the exit to stop the show, the massive digital screens above the stage, usually used for displaying subtitles, suddenly flickered. The live feed of the stage went black. Instead, a high-definition audio visualizer appeared on the screens, and a voice, crisp, clear, and terrifyingly familiar, rang out through the theater's state-of-the-art surround sound system and to every broadcast screen across the
globe.
"Aren't you afraid she'll discover the truth?" Serena's recorded voice echoed, dripping with malice. "What if she finds out that I deliberately put that stuff in her water years ago, and you not only knew all along but helped me destroy the security footage and even used it as an excuse to keep her caged?
Do you
think she'd go insane?" The entire audience went deathly silent. Then came Holden's cold, arrogant reply, amplified to a deafening volume. "Shut up. Take that to your grave. If she ever finds out, I won't forgive you. She was too proud. If I didn't pull her down from her pedestal, she'd never stay obediently by my side." The recording played in its entirety, 2 minutes of absolute, indisputable proof of a conspiracy, attempted murder, and psychological torture, broadcasted live to millions of people worldwide. In the VIP box, Serena let out a piercing scream. She turned to flee, but the doors to the box were already blocked by 2 stone-faced officers from Scotland Yard, accompanied by representatives from the international legal firm Lily had hired. "Mr. Chase, Ms. Miles," the lead detective said, his voice echoing in the small
space.
"You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit grievous bodily harm, obstruction of justice, and kidnapping under international jurisdiction. Please step away from the railing." Holden looked down at the stage. The audio had stopped, and the crowd was in a state of absolute, roaring uproar. But amid the chaos, Lily stood in the center of the stage, looking up at his
box.
She didn't look angry. She didn't look triumphant. She simply looked at him with the cold, detached pity one reserves for a crushed insect. The conductor, recovering from his shock, looked at Lily. She gave him a single, elegant nod. He lowered his baton, and the orchestra began to play once more. Lily turned back to the audience. She ignored the sirens wailing outside the theater, ignored the flashes of the cameras capturing Holden and Serena being led away in handcuffs in the VIP box above. She opened her mouth, and the first note of her song soared into the heavens, free, wild, and completely unbroken.